Greetings, dear viewers. Today I want to talk about Tales of Symphonia, one of my favorite games of all time. Specifically, I want to talk about titles because there's such a large part of the game. You actually have to do almost everything you can do in order to unlock all of the titles. So I'm going to start off before I get to any specific titles. Just talk about what titles are. What do they do? How do they work? Why are they important? And how do you get them? So we'll start off with what are they? How do they work? So if you come into the start menu here and go to status, select any character, you can see your character's stats as well as all the titles available to them. And you can select the one you want to use. You can only select one title for any character at a given time. So basically the way they work is they dictate the stats that your character gains when they level up. Basically that works off of a percentage-based system using hidden values that aren't displayed to you in game. So for example, if we go to the Drifting Swordsman title here, this one gives you a 20% chance for strength. Now that 20% value is not in the game anywhere. I only know that because I looked it up. So if you want to see the values for other titles, you would have to look it up. Otherwise, it's not something you need to do if you don't want to. You can pretty much find the best title in game without knowing the actual values, and I'll talk about that. But basically this one gives a 20% chance for strength. So what that means is when Lloyd levels up, he gets a 20% chance for his strength to increase by 1 bonus point. So I say bonus point because you still get the baseline boost for leveling up no matter what title you're using. If you're using the default title, the default one does not give you any chance to get any bonus stats at all. It's just 0 across the board. You're still going to gain stats when you level up with this title. You're just not going to get any bonus stats. So you pretty much want to use any other title but this one. There's a couple others that are 0 across the board as well, but yeah, basically you want to try and maximize the stats that you utilize the most from these title boosts. So like I mentioned, the Drifting Swordsman title has 20% chance for strength. These values apply to all the stats, HP, TP, strength, all the way up to accuracy, and the values go in multiples of 10. So the value could be 10%, 20%, 30%, all the way up to 100%. And yes, there are titles that give 100% chance of a bonus stat on a level up. Obviously those ones are harder to unlock. But that's basically the gist of how they work. So in order to make the most efficient use out of them, you want to grab a better title and equip it right away before you level up, because you don't actually get any gain from your titles by switching right away. It doesn't matter what I pick right now. Nothing's going to change until Lloyd actually levels up. That's when you start to reap in the benefit, or I guess you could also call it a con, of leveling up with specific titles. So, I mentioned how you can tell sort of which ones are better than others without knowing the actual values. And that's, if you probably could have guessed, it's due to the coloring of the stats down on the bottom there. So if I equip the Swordsman title here, this is the default one you start with. Like I mentioned, it's 0% chance for all stats. Obviously not a very good title, but if I hover over any other title, you'll see some of the stats turn green. So that means that this title provides a higher percentage chance of increasing that stat than the one we currently have equipped. So because I have the default title on, all of them are showing up as green, because all of these titles are better than the default one. So let's say, for example, I pick Drifting Swordsman, and then I come back in here. Now when I start hovering over some of these, you'll see that some of them are red. That means that these titles offer a lower percentage chance than the one I currently have equipped, which is the Drifting Swordsman one. So you can see you can sort of have to look at specific stats you're interested in and try to maximize on those, because some give boosts in certain stats and give no boost in other stats that you might want. So it's kind of a balancing act to sort of pick the one you want. For Lloyd, I guess obviously you'd probably want to go for like strength, defense, maybe HP, since he's more of a bruiser type character. But of course, your playstyle, it's up to you. You can pick whatever you want. So basically, that's the gist of how they work, how you can tell which ones are better than others. And now I just want to talk about, you might ask, is this important? Why is this significant? Do these 1-point bonuses really matter? Especially when you're looking at a 10-20% chance of even getting that bonus point in the stat? It's a valid question. But if we just take a quick, simple example to mind, let's pretend we have one of the really good titles that gives a 100% chance of a bonus stat. Let's say it's Strength. So every time we level up with that title on, we're going to get a bonus point in Strength on top of the baseline level up stats. So let's say you make it to level 100 in your playthrough. So 100 times 1 is 100. That's 100 extra points in Strength you're going to have at the end of your playthrough because of equipping that really good title. That is significant. That's a lot of bonus stats. So you do want to try and make sure you manage your titles properly so you're making the most out of your character's level up. Because if you just play through the whole game using the default titles, you're going to have a harder time than if you just took a couple seconds to, change to the new title you just unlocked. So they do have a significant impact. And I know my example used one of the best titles in the game, but even still, if you're just looking at, 40-50% chance of getting that bonus point, that's still, 40-50 extra points you're going to have at the end of your playthrough, roughly on average, depending on what level you want to get to. Of course, it's a lot of variables involved, but basically what I'm trying to get at is that they do have a significant effect, or at least a non-insignificant one. And the last thing I'm going to talk about here is, how do you get titles? If you've played the game for not very long, you've probably noticed that you get them completely at random almost, and that's not too far off. They're unlocked by so many different criteria. It's just all over the place. You unlock some through achieving certain levels, you unlock some through hitting certain points in the storyline, you unlock some by grinding out certain things, like one of them is you unlock for mastering all of the cooking recipes. Others just have random criteria, like I think like enter a battle with poison and finish it with it while still being poisoned, like random stuff like that. Like I just don't think there's any conceivable way somebody could just figure out how to get them all on their own. I'm afraid you do have to turn to the internet for help on that one if you did want to go for 100% completion, because the criteria for so many of these titles are just so random. Like, you would not figure them all out on your own. But I recommend looking at the Tethe'alla wiki. It has all the titles in the game for each character listed there, along with how to unlock them, and as well as the values for what they give, what the percentage chances that they give you. I think they use an integer 1 to 10. 1 is 10%, 10 is 100%, and you can fill in the gaps there. But yeah, it takes a long time to get all the titles in the game. I haven't done it yet. I do plan to. I'm working on it right now. But it's definitely a grind. It's minimum, I believe, 5 playthroughs from the research I've done just to get them all. And that's if you manage your time wisely, because so many of them can only be achieved in a certain small window of the certain playthrough with certain decisions made. It's pretty crazy. It's crazy the amount of depth this game has. It's why I love it so much. It's certainly challenging at times due to that, but I just love the amount of depth to this game. And that's why I'm just happy to talk about it right now. So I hope this video was somewhat enlightening to you. If you learned a thing or two about titles. I'm going to be coming out with some more videos on specific titles and how to unlock particular ones, just to sort of touch base on all of them, since there's so many different requirements for them all. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and catch you later.